Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Fortner Farm. I hope everybody's doing okay tonight. That is the project, the several weeks of accumulated projects there to create that little diorama, I don't know. And I am fed up with farm. I'm gonna move on to something else. I've done enough for that for right now. I might come back. I think several folks have suggested, "Oh man, no tractor. We need a John Deere, or we need a tractor, or International Harvester, or something." But right now, that and the silo, the windmill was a little bit challenging, but it really wasn't that bad once I figured out how to get the blades in there and get them angled, figuring out doing that slot and the cut and that was the tricky part on the windmill, but that got figured out pretty quick. But at silo, that whooped me. A lot of that. In fact, we're going to look at the comments here on YouTube in a second and look at some of the questions I got in email. But there's a comment there about 4-letter words that was used trying to put these things together, put the silo together. But there was one nasty word that was used a lot whenever I was designing that booger, and that was math. Oh my Lord, the math that was involved in putting that together. And then once I got it designed, I decided I didn't like it and I had to go back and redo it. But I didn't have to scrap it all. And I learned a lot from the first attempt. So I hope everybody's doing well tonight. Looks like we got a pretty decent crowd. We already got 80 of you in here. Just take a look here, see who we got. A lot of the regulars. Hello, Dell and Bill and Terry. Let's see here. I think I seen. Yep, we got a couple of Aussies in here tonight. Howdy, New Zealand, Australia. And of course, there's Miss Sharon. Thank you guys for being here. I've seen a comment that I wanted to address. Hello, Jeff. Let's see here. Several Floridians too. Where is that comment? Where? Oh, okay. And even Hawaii. Man, you guys are spanning the globe. I love it. I'm looking for, I seen something post there we go. That's what I was looking for while I was waiting to go live. And I just wanted to address this and make sure that everybody's seen it and everybody jump in board here and help me wish Carl a happy birthday. He says he's 81 years young today. And being that he's 81 years young today, this will probably resonate with him and a lot of you guys, because like I said, a lot of you guys are my old farts. You guys, my seniors. So I'm going to try to do this without screwing it up terrible in this. But let's see here. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. And that's enough of that. That's my Maryland impression. Happy birthday, Carl. I appreciate you. I appreciate all your support. Appreciate all you've done for Hobo over the last few months and as I continue to grow. Thank you. And we got another redneck in here. We got Jack in the shop. We got several rednecks in here. And like I say, a lot of you guys are my old farts. When I use the term redneck, I use it as a term of endearment, just like old fart. And people who are local geographically to me, I said, we're all rednecks. Whether you like it or not, you might be a white collar worker, and you're a doctor and a brain surgeon, but you're still a redneck. Okay, let's see here. Um, so what we're going to do tonight is looking through all the comments real quick, and that's something I've been thinking about doing, and I don't know. I'm on the fence about working with anybody again. But I almost need a moderator, somebody that can be uh, watching watching the comments, so I'm not having to do this. I can do this instead of this, and but somebody can watch the comments and yes, yep, yep. Uh, but I'm on the fence. It's because I'm going to screw up at some point tonight talking to you, thinking that I'm showing you the screen, and I'm not because I'm not paying attention. Things slip. But tonight we're going to talk about the silo, the design. I'm going to answer a lot of the questions that were in YouTube and in email. A lot of folks were bumfuzzled about how I got the living hinge on that top, and I'm happy. I'm always happy to share everything that I've learned as I've done it, and a lot of times I'll share it with you as I'm doing it. So you don't have to buy the files; you can make them yourselves. But this one, once you see what all is involved and all the math that you got to go through, I don't know that I would want to tackle it again. So, all right, let's jump over here to the comments in YouTube first. And in the video, if you watched yesterday's video, and in fact, this past week, I only got a video out yesterday, which was the assembly of the silo. And talk about that just for a second. I talked about when I was designing it that I had found some designs online. I wanted a silo. So let's see what people are making. So I Googled laser cut silo, and there are a lot of them in Etsy. But almost every one of them have got the support rings on the external part of the silo. I don't like that. Don't like that look. I wanted to clean that up, and I wanted to have them all internal. And I made that comment in the video. So I didn't like. I wanted to put my spin on it. And that was one of the. In fact, that was the first comment in the video, in the comments on the video. And if you're in the stream tonight, the Bulldog Chefs 203, the Bulldog Chefs 203. The first comment was the old concrete silos had the support bands on the outside, as did the wooden silos. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did. But the laser cut files that are out there on Etsy and all over the place, that's not how they're set up. They're set up similar to the way I did it, with just a few support rings. And I answered him, yes, they were. They did have the old wooden ones, and the concrete ones still have support rings around the external, and they had to do that. And the reason that they do that, for those that don't know, and they still do this with, if you look at any of the water towers today, water towers are even done this way. The bands that go around the external part of the tower, they're able to hold so much weight. If it's a water tower and it's got 100 gallons of water in it, well, 100 gallons weighs so much, and they have to put so many bands every 100 or every spaced ever so far apart for the weight. But the further down you go, the heavier it's getting. Same thing with the grain silos. The further you go down, the heavier and the more grain you're getting. Well, you got to get those rings closer together. As you come down, they begin to get, they have to, because they can't hold the weight of all four of them above it. So that was the other reason I didn't like the external bands. I try to be as accurate as I can without being, crazy. But I like to have my dimensions right. I like to have the aspect ratios as close as possible. So that was another reason I went with that way. And then plus, I was planning on painting mine silver anyway. So I was going to do one of the the galvanized or the metal silos, and they don't have the bands on the outside. So yes, Bulldog Chef 203, you're right. Some of them did, but mine don't. And let's see here. Going over, let's see, this one and this one. Terry, I think Terry's in here. Terry is asking about the living hinge on the roof. So how did you design the living hinge on the roof? And he's not the only one that's asking about that. And Ben TB4805 says, hey, have you ever done a lighthouse? And that was the first request about the lighthouse. And then Dave says, how did you calculate the curve on the roof of the work shed? And I'll show you that too. And Carl's asked about maybe making a candy dispenser. And that wouldn't be too hard to do since the lids are already removable. You just have to put a little slant in the bottom of it and direct all the candy out an opening of the door of the shed. But I am burnt out on farm work. I'm done on my farm work. And here we go. And I'm sure that this person is in the stream, they're a regular viewer, and I can't remember what your actual name is. And I don't know how to use what that's supposed to say there, but if you're here, claim that DRIR or DRIROT. He was the one that says, I think I used my full repertoire of 4-letter words at least 3 times during the assembly process. And then the Bulldog Chef 203 came back and he looks great. You could modify that into a lighthouse. So there's the second suggestion about making a lighthouse. And I told him, I said, shh, I've got a round LED puck to use in a lighthouse design, but don't tell anybody. But I've already scrapped that after getting my LED out. And then more requests for more farm stuff. And I'm just like, nah, I am done. All right. So the biggest question was how, and I'm emails too, lots of emails, but how in the world did I create that living hinge in order to get that conical shape? And that was a little tricky. That took a little bit of doing. And let's see here. I'm just looking at the comments. No, Chris, it's not Detroit. They also emailed me and they've identified themselves to me once or twice, and my memory just that wasn't logged in. So I'm gonna put in some asterisks here so I know where to scroll back up to in the comments. I know I got to here. All right. So let's take a look at this, and I'm gonna try to make this Jeff says you are such the farmer. You are outstanding in your field. But dad jokes. A lighthouse would be great, Michael. I actually got this before anybody even suggested it because my intent was, this is a little LED, and I got the batteries out of it right now. It's a 10 LED puck. And the plan was I was going to put this in the top of a lighthouse and then, build up around it and then have this. It said that it had a fade function. So I was just going to put it on white and have it fade in and fade out. So it was a low strobe. But this particular puck, when it goes into fade, it doesn't fade white off, white on, white off. It fades through all the colors. So I'm scratching this puck and I've got and the anniversary show coming up next week. So I don't know if I'm gonna actually get a design out this coming week with everything I've got to get prepared for. Uh, so right now, and I've got so many other things that are stacking up on me that need to get done design wise that I hate to jump in and add another thing to it. But yeah, I do think a lighthouse would be neat to do, but it might be a few weeks down the road. Let's see here. Do. All right. More asterisk. Okay. So I said that the first thing that, I had to use a lot of math. And before you could do anything, if you're going to design a lighthouse, because the things I'm getting ready to show you and explain to you, if you wanted to go and tackle you a lighthouse yourself, this designer, in fact, you could get this design and modify it. Getting this design and modifying it would save you a ton of time. But the first thing you have to decide is, what is your diameter going to be? How big around is it going to be? And then that's going to dictate every other aspect of this design. Every aspect of this design. And what I did was, all right, I want to design this with the 300 by 300 material, which was what a lot of us use. So it's about 12 inches by 12 inches if you're still stuck on the imperial and not the metric, but 300 by 300. So I said, okay, so if that's my workspace confinement, then the largest that I would feel comfortable making my living hinge that's going to wrap around and make the column is going to be 295 millimeters wide. So I said, okay. So if I can go 295 millimeters wide with my living hinge, then how big around is my column going to be? Well, if you think back to geometry class in 10th grade, 10th grade, that's the length of my living hinge. And if I'm going to wrap that around, then that would also be the perimeter of my circle. So divide by pi, and that'll give me my diameter. So that was the first hurdle. So 295 divided by pi gave me my diameter of my column for the lighthouse. Then everything else had to be designed around that. So jumping over here to Lightburn. So you can see here, I created, 295 millimeter. If I select that outermost piece, you can see it's 295 by 235 millimeters tall. And if I say 295 divided by pi, that gave me about a 94 millimeter diameter for my circle that everything else needed to be based on. The supports, then I need, then the top for the, once I knew how big the diameter was and I knew I wanted to have a 1/2 inch overhang on either side of it, well, then I knew I needed to add another inch to that 94 millimeter diameter and then divide that and then get and then I knew what that circle needed to be. So before I could even start making the lid, I had to get the size of this living hinge, which then determined the size of the, so like I said, there was a lot of math and a lot of thought that had to go into this. And unfortunately, in my case, a lot of times it's afterthought. You're like, oh, golly, I wish I'd have thought of that 10 steps ago. Undo, and start again. But once I had my size, I had a 94 millimeter diameter circle. Draw out a 94 millimeter. Well, that was, 94 millimeters. Lock my aspect ratio, 94 millimeters. And then I said, okay, I want to have, a half-inch overhang. So that's another inch. So say 94 plus 25. So we'll just round that to 120 millimeters. So I had a 120 millimeter circle. That's what I started with for my my roof, my top. Now I had to create the living hinge. But when you create this living hinge, you're going to cut away a quarter of this so it can wrap itself together and form that conical shape. And you need to have a void in the center that will allow it to do that. And I went with about a 14 millimeter hole. So I drew another circle and said to go 14 millimeters. And then put that 14 millimeters in the middle of that. So, okay. So there's the basic shape. But now I had to create the living hinge. And the living hinge, if you've tried to do this, it doesn't work like any other living hinge because of the way that has to taper up. There was I think I actually did 3 steps, but I've improved it since doing this to where I can do it. I think I can do it in two different living hinges or 2 different increments of living hinges. And using instead of, and when I did the living hinge for this guy, I used the grid array to create that living hinge. That's easy peasy. But this one, I had to use the circular array. And this was the first time I've ever used the circular array to create a living hinge. And I'm gonna talk you through the math. And there's a lot of it. Some of you'll get it as I say it, or you'll go, oh yeah, I know what he's doing. And then some of you are going to be going, and you have to back this up and watch it again, back it up, and watch it again, back it, or you just say the heck with it. I'm just going to buy the file and be done with it. Because it did have smoke coming out my ears. Well, I'm gonna let you poke fun at the bear. Can you imagine how it would look if Clack had to design it? He says he hates math, and I hated geometry. I flunked geometry. I love math. I love algebra, but math was my weakest. Not math. Geometry was my weakest math. And Connie says, "Go slow on the math." All right, I'm going to explain it all. My first guess is spacing at top at outer is top gap times pi. Yeah, and I'm not even going. I don't know. I don't. But here we go. All right. So back over here. So to create this circular living hinge, I have the outer diameter of 120 millimeters, or not the outer diameter, but the diameter is 120 millimeters. So half of that is 60 millimeters, and I've got a 14 millimeter. Just for keeping math simple, I did a 14 millimeter or a half-inch hole when I did mine, I think originally. But for tonight, for ease in math, I'm going to make this 20 millimeters. Put it back in the center. I didn't have my anchor point in the correct position, or else it would have went right to right. But there we go. All right, so now I've got 120 diameter and a 20 diameter. So what I did first was come up here, find my crosshairs for the top dead center of my circle, hold my shift button, and draw a straight line. Doesn't matter how long, any straight line. Once I got that straight line, I selected that straight line. And then I come up here to my height field. And I don't know how well you're going to see this on the screen. So I think all I'll do is you can use this field as a calculator. And I'll probably do this for you twice. I'll do it once here, and then I'll open the calculator and show you in the calculator so you can see it again. So if I've got 120 millimeter diameter, half of that, the radius is going to be 60 millimeters. So 60 millimeters. And here I want to have 3 lines, 3 cuts going across here. So if I've got 60, but before I divide that by 3, if I've got 3 lines, then I need 3 or 2 spaces in between, because I want the first line to go all the way to the edge and the last line to go all the way to edge. So I need 2 voids in between those, and I want a 3 millimeter void in between each one, because I'm working with, and there is, I haven't seen any scientific proof or facts or anybody say otherwise, but when I'm working with 3 millimeter material, when I do a living hinge, I make my gaps 3 millimeters. If I'm working with 4.5 millimeter material, I make the gaps between my cuts the same thickness as my board. That way, that cut, that if you were to do a cross section of that, it would be a perfect square. And I think that's the strongest shape you could have in there. I think, I don't know, but that's my reasoning. I don't know if it's right or not, but that's the way I do it. So if I've got a 60 millimeter radius and I need 2 3 millimeter spaces, that'd be 60 less 6, that's 54. So 54 millimeters divided by 3, that would give me a length of 18 millimeters per line. So, and then I selected that and select that outer one, and let's make sure it's in the center and at the top. And there it is. Now, I'm going to open this up and clear all this. And now you can see this. So I've got a 120 millimeter diameter. You got that. Divide that by 2, gives me a 60 millimeter radius. I need to have 2 voids between 3 cuts, and I want my voids at 3 millimeters each. So I'm subtracting 6 millimeters. That leaves me 54. And I wanted 3 cuts. Divide that by 3. That gives me 18 millimeters per cut for my first cuts. So now that is 18 millimeters. Now I will use my grid array to create 3. Oh, did I do that wrong? No, I did do that wrong. See, this is what I'm talking about. You screw up. But hey, I found it before I got too far. I forgot to subtract half of that inner diameter. So let's go back to the calculator. Cancel. Go back to the calculator. So I got 120 and divide that by 2, gives me 60. And I need to subtract 10 right off the gate, right out of the gate. So I'm down to 50 now. Now subtract the 6 millimeter void and divide that by 3. That gives me 14.6666666666. So now I know my length, and I've already centered this line. Make sure your anchor point is in the top dead center, because you don't want that to move. So move that up there, and now you can come down here and change this to 14.666 and say enter, and that'll just draw that line up. And now go back to your grid array and put in 3 of them with 3 millimeter spacing and say, okay, and go ahead and group your results and say, okay. And now you've got that all the way out to the edge and all the way to the inner edge with the perfect spacing and perfect cuts for this size, for this shape. Now select this entire piece, and we're going to move our anchor point back to the center, and we're going to rotate this negative 2.5 degrees, not negative 25, negative 2.5 degrees. Now that I've rotated that, I can come back up here and draw another straight line. Doesn't matter where you draw it there. And this one, I'm going to align it to the center and align it to the top. Then I'm going to select it, and I've got my move functions, my arrow move function set to 3 millimeters. Say okay. So I've got it selected. I arrow down one time, that moves it in 3 millimeters from the edge. And I'm going to look here. I think 2.5 millimeters or 2.5. Let's do it. Let's go back and rotate it 3 degrees. Undo. Rotate 3 degrees. Not 3. Negative 3. I want to rotate it counterclockwise. Negative 3. Now draw that straight line. Select it. Top dead center. And then move it down 3 millimeters. Now, I did that because I wanted a little bit more gap in between here and there, and that's still too much. That's too close. But I want to have a 3 millimeter gap here, and then because this is a round conical shape, I have to deviate a little on the way I would normally lay it out. So I've moved my anchor point back up here to the top of this one, and I'm going to reduce this to, let's look at 20 millimeters. Let's look at 18 millimeters. And I'm going to stay with that. Now I'm going to take that one and group those together. And with that group together, I will rotate it, the entire thing back 3 degrees. That'll work. Well, I will make sure. I didn't rotate it from the center. And I don't think it'd matter, but I'm rotating it from the center 3 degrees. There we go. All right. And now selecting that group and the inner circle and doing a circular array. And I'm doing 40 copies and say okay. And there's the first part of the living hinge for this piece. Now what I need to do is I'm going to rotate this positive 3 degrees and draw another straight line. Select that line, put it at top dead center. And I can put it at there, but that's not where it's going to live. It's not going to start there. This one is actually going to need to come all. In fact, I'm not even going to put it there. I'm going to put, well, yeah, I have to put it there. There. And actually, I should have done 2 lines on that. Undo again. There we go. Undo 2 of those. And that one's actually going to be shorter. So I can ungroup that and then change that length. About there, give or take. Nope. Group all that. I did group it all. And then this one, circular array 20, good. So that was 3 and 2, and now I need to do 1. and we'll rotate it from the center and rotate it again. Just we'll keep going negative. All right, and then another straight line. And that one's not really, I was going 3 degrees and I was thinking that sets groups of 3 was what I want, but that's not where I positioned really, really well. But I'm without having to go back and undo a whole lot of stuff. I want to put that cut in between those two as centered up as well as nice as possible. So I'll just draw a rectangle about like that. And then tell that to go to the center of that rectangle. And that centered that up better. And I can get rid of that. Now this one, I think I did this 2 or 3 days ago, so I forgot actually how all my steps. We'll take that one because this is not looking like the way my first design came out. Maybe it actually maybe it is. Maybe it was just something like, no, I don't remember. I don't remember, folks, but once you got that one, in fact, you know what? Duh, I got it right here. I'll answer that question in a minute, Miss Valerie. I see your question there. I'll answer it. So I had 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1. So you can see the pattern that I ended up creating, and I went through a half a dozen or more iterations of this living hinge to get it to work. But you're starting to see the real trick is figuring out the math. How long, what size is it going to be? What's your overall diameter? Showed you how to figure that out. Then how long do your cuts need to be? Well, you know what your diameter is. Half your diameter, whatever your void is, subtract half that diameter. And then whatever your material thickness is, subtract the voids between each cut and divide by the number of cuts you need. And that gives you your length of each cut. And there, I finally, when I went back and looked, I did 1, 3, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 2, I think it was. And that was, that allowed that to wrap up and do what I wanted it to do and to bend the way that I wanted it to. It doesn't have, when you look at the actual lid, it doesn't have a uniform living hinge like your typical living hinge. You see the larger voids there where your different number of cuts and all that. And it has to be irregular in order for it to bend and come up in that conical shape. Now, how did I get that cut? Well, once I had this, let's say this was the final design. If I had 120 millimeter diameter, I drew a square, hold my shift key, drew a square, told it to be, say it was 120, so I went half of that, 60. So I got a perfect square, 60 millimeters, and I put it right in the center, right there when it snapped. And then I selected my shape, Alt or hold my shift button to select that, and then tools, cut shapes, and then select that piece and delete it, and then just close that up. You Boolean tools would work too. Edit, undo. And I'm going to put this on a better path to see it better. So A and B. No, because of that's the reason why the living hinge is funny. It's not they're lines, they're not shapes. And because you're working with the lines and not shapes, the Boolean hinge or the Boolean tool won't work with the living hinge. So you have to ungroup all of that. So ungroup, then select your shape, your circle, and you can group those back together. So A, that's A, and then select B, and then you can subtract that, and that would give you a closed image, and you can just select all of those outside of it. Well, actually, that's still grouped, so you have to ungroup it, and then you could select all of them and delete them. Come on. There we go. And there. But because those lines are lines and not shapes, you can't use Boolean with lines. But if you unselected that and then just got your two circles, group those to make those two circles one object, then use the rect or the square as a cut shape for your Booleans, then that would give you a closed piece there that you don't have to close with when you use the cut tool. And that gives you that. So that's how I got around to finally coming up with a living hinge that would fold up and make the conical shape the way that I liked it, the way that I felt good about it. So let's go back to those questions. Go back up here to my asterisks. I don't know about you guys, and I think, Jack, you may have seen it. When I see the asterisk, every time I see an asterisk, our local police department, our city police department, has special license plates on their on some of their cruisers that's a number 1 and an asterisk. And I finally broke down and asked, what does the 1 asterisk mean? And they said, say it. And I said, say it, 1 asterisk. And he said, yeah, say it slower. 1 asterisk. 1 asterisk. 1 asterisk is our special, our SWAT guys, our special response team. But I'm thinking, okay, well, that's cute. But now that I know what is that really appropriate for the front of our police cars? Don't know. All right, looking for my asterisk. All right, so here we go. Well, hey, Dimitri's. I don't know if he's still here, but hey, Dimitri, if you're here, thank you for joining. So there's my first set of my last set of asterisks. Looking for question marks. What about making a big bend with the real clock? Yeah. That like I said, I've got a list of things that need to be accomplished. And the next thing I'm really chomping at the bit to do is I got an antique writing table from a storage unit that was being thrown away. It's a beautiful piece of wood that's been abused and not abused, but painted and stained. And it's, got hundreds of years of stuff all over it. Well, I sanded that top smooth and it's nice solid oak. And my plan is it's about 18 inches deep and about 3.5 inches wide. And my plan is to do some really masterful scroll work inlays on top of that writing desk and turn that old writing desk into a really beautiful sideboard. That might be something that you might sit in your dining room or something. I'm wanting to tackle that, but I'll probably start that. My XW is scheduled to be here Tuesday, and then we've got the anniversary show on Saturday, and I got a lot of cleaning and prepping to do to get the XW in here, set up, working, and prepared for the anniversary show. So that's why I said I don't know what next week holds for me in the way of designs, but after the anniversary, I'm hoping to start tackling that scroll work inlay. And I'm talking about, doing, 18-inch by 2-inch or 2 foot, a big, huge inlay with probably 2 different types of wood, and then possibly using the print and cut feature to go back and engrave on top of the pieces that were inlaid. So you could have the distinct engravings on top or in the, I'm planning to do some elaborate crap here. And so I'm kind of putting little projects off, and hopefully it'll be something that'll entertain you guys and you'll appreciate, but that's not something that a project that you would go replicate, but you could do smaller things and then eventually take on something like that. Let's see here. Question. You are just a genius to me. I could never create something that mathematical. Thus, I pay to be a gold patron. Well, thank you for your support. But I'm not a genius. And like I said, I flunked geometry. I swear to God I did. I hated that class with a passion. When would I ever need to know I don't even know how to say it. There were a bunch of theories and theorems and all that. And I'm like, I don't want to go to English class to learn to do math. And here we are. Well, hello, Chuck. Chuck, thank you for your support. Thank you for all your help. I do appreciate you. You are a valued viewer, and I appreciate you a lot. And Jack says, I guess he's talking about my spacing theory. He says, if it works, it is right. And Chris says, my testing on hinges agree. Spacing equals thickness gives strength. You can get by with thinner spaces when you're working with thinner material. I just don't like to have my spacing narrower than the thickness of my material. On living hinges. Question marks. There we go. Valerie had a question. Did you have to do extra kerf adjustments because of the variety of shapes and etc.? I did no kerf adjustments whatsoever with the silo design because I wasn't worried about any tight fitting finger joints because there were only a few. And in fact, and I'll show you here in a minute because the other kick in the teeth was designing the slots in that. Getting the slot placement positioned correctly, and if you haven't watched the assembly video yet, Valerie, you don't want a tight fit. You don't want to be struggling, and like on the boxes, I like to have those a friction fit. These, in fact, to be perfectly honest with you, I designed this. When you download this file, if you get it to your patron or you buy it and you get this file, the slots and tabs and everything is done at 3 millimeters. Well, all the material I was cutting with was actually about 2.8. It was under 3 millimeters. And I did not adjust my file for that. I left everything large. Plus the kerf, I didn't adjust for the kerf either. So that way everything fit together kind of loosely, and I assembled everything with super glue and accelerator. So it went together fairly easy because I left a little bit of slop because I knew it was going to be a challenging fit to begin with. So if you have got this file and you tried to size your material, the slots and tabs to your material, if you're working with 3 millimeter material, you might just leave it be and leave that extra little bit of slop in there. And I did a few other things to help make it assemble easy too. And I'll show you that as we move forward with this. Question marks. Well, this ain't a question, but it's a big thank you from me. Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much. And I missed a few here, or I ain't got to them yet because I see some more up there. Scrolling on down. Valerie, on this roof, you removed 25% or a quarter of to change the pitch of the roof. Could you say yeah, I don't know. Yes, but the amount of material you took out of there would change the pitch. Absolutely. How well is it all going to come together? I don't know. But yes, changing that amount of that you removed would either, if you took less away, it would flatten it. If you took more away, it would make it steeper. And I like that. Huh? Okay, let's see here. Let's see. Question. Okay, there we go. Moses, thank you. Greatly appreciated. And Chicago Bob. Chicago Bob, he's donating and he's a gold patron. That's above and beyond. It really is. I got some of the best viewers. I really do. I was hoping to be at 10,000 subscribers before the anniversary, and I probably would have been there if I didn't take the month of April off dying in my bed, or thought I was. But we're not going to make that 10,000 mark. But I might have some lower numbers. But boy, I got the best quality, and I'll take quality over quantity any day of the week. Any day of the week. Let's see. QQQ, did you get my email about the pocket? I did get it, John, and I was going to address that after I got through with this design, but go back and look on the website on hobowithwood.com where that file is at. And if I recall correctly, I thought I put down in the description of that file links to all the hardware that I used. Whether those are still good on Amazon, I don't know. I haven't checked them, but I'm pretty sure the links are there in the description of the file. If not, I will get them to you. And yes, yeah, I've actually got, let's see here. What is this? Squirrel? I've got, come on. Track. There we go. So I've got the FedEx app, and it's tracking, telling me when to expect it. And I hope to do like I did with my very first laser. Oh, look, it's a truck. I got a package, package in. And Dimitri and others have told us this thing is not light. It is not an easy one-person lift. It's a big machine. It's a heavy machine. But I learned early on when you're dealing with these things, I haven't had one. Well, actually, I had one come on a pallet. But I learned early on, for those in the box, don't lift it out of the box. Lift the box off of it. So I'll cut the bottom of the box and the flaps out from underneath it and then just lift it up out of there. Because I could go get a neighbor if I had to, but it's not the easiest thing. But yeah, I do plan to do an unpacking and set up, and hopefully I won't need to bend Dimitri's ear. But you know what? It is so nice knowing that if I need to reach out to Rolly for assistance, all I got to do is get on the Facebook group and say, "Hey, Dimitri, help!" and I'll get the help. That's what's so cool about the Rolly. In fact, here we go. Yeah, I got it rolling across the bottom. If you're thinking about a Rolly, if you use my link right there, it'd be greatly appreciated. In fact, the live stream next week, a week from today, we're giving away a brand new Rolly to one of you guys. One of you guys is getting a brand new Rolly. And I'm not limiting it to the continental US. I talked with Leo, and Leo has now got international shipping. He's already shipping the lasers everywhere anyway. And so he said he would be glad. And because I even told him, I said, and before he offered to do this, I told him, I said, if you'll donate the laser, I'll pay for the shipping internet wherever it needs to go. And he said, I'm already doing the international shipping. And if I'm not shipping it you and I'm just going to ship it, we'll do that. We'll make it. And I said, so, great. So big shout out to Leo for stepping up. And some of you have put up some kind of comments about, well, it ain't right that you don't get your XW for free. And I said, well, I would rather buy my XW and have the good graces of Leo to give you one of these amazing machines. So I am getting a free laser. I'm just giving it to you. So Leo's a really awesome guy, and Dimitri is he's the cat's pajamas. Let's see here. Yeah, Roger, I got my box too. I'm still waiting on one, and we're getting sidetracked. We're going to get back to this silo. But for those who have ordered or are thinking about ordering the Rolly, especially if you're getting the XW, I don't know if it holds true for the MK2, but the XW is so big and it is so heavy that it puts it into from what I understand, it puts it into a different class with FedEx. So FedEx finds out they've got shipments to pick up in the warehouse there in California for me here in the US. And they show up and go up there to pick them up. And when they get there, they've sent little Betsy Lou out there with her little bitty pickup truck. And she's like, well, I can't take that thing. I only can take these things. And so they take all the little stuff, and then all the big stuff, it's got to go in the big trucks. And then so the shipments get split up. And then so you've got these little packages that are delivered this way, and then the bigger ones are coming on the big truck, and they come this, so they end up on two different routes. And my XW, the big box, didn't get picked up for like 24 or 48 hours after the little box did. But that ain't nothing to do with Rolly. That's all on FedEx. But that's why I understand that we're having the issues of getting partial shipments, but it ain't no fault of Rolly. So there's another one. Thank you. And I looked, there's no parts link. It might be in the video description. I'll look, and I will email you. I'll look and I'll follow up and email you. And Tom, again, thank you. Greatly appreciated. Looking for question marks. Yeah, well, not a question. Yeah, well, I wanted it too, and my pocketbooks is that's why I posted in. Thank God for credit cards. Okay, so now I'm gonna put a row of asterisk. I'm down at the bottom comments. Now, once I figured out the lid, and I showed you in the, if you haven't watched the actual assembly video, you need to watch it if you get the file, because I've got the things nested in a way so I minimize the use of my wood, and it shows you how to put these pieces in. This smaller piece is the size of the inner diameter of the column. So when it fits in there, it just sits on there nice and tight and centers it up. Doesn't make it secure, but it centers it. The next roadblock was the rings. All right. Because I'm putting them inside here. And I knew that my outer diameter, we're going to use, if I say it was 120 millimeters, that's the outer diameter. You have to take into consideration the thickness of your material twice to get your inner diameter. And then the tabs on that are going to protrude out to where they're going to be at least flush or just below your outermost diameter. And then you had, and for that was for the four support pieces were pretty simple. You just get those two circles and then put your tabs on there. But then those were the real trick, getting those figured out. And let's jump over here. And let's see. In fact, we'll use the actual numbers. I said it was 295 millimeters. So if I drew out a perfect circle and told it to be 295 millimeters, not all right, divided by pi. 295 divided by pi. There we go. There's the outer diameter of my living hinge rolled up. So instead of having to do the actual math and figure all this out, a lot of this I just did by recreating the physical environment and let Lightburn do all of the math and figuring for me. So I've got that selected. I just simply said, let's do an offset inward. My material is 3 millimeters. Don't delete the original. Say, okay. I'm going to put the outer one on a toolpath because that's my outermost piece. So there is the, actually I need to put them both on a toolpath and we'll group them up. So there's the cross section of the column. And actually I don't want to group them because I need to be able to select that one individually. All right, so now that one, I want to, I could duplicate it, but I'm not going to bother because they're going to be the tabs are going to stick through there. This will be the outer diameter of that support. And I'll do another offset and I'm going to make it 5 millimeters just to give it some strength, some rigidity, make it rigid. So now that and that would be the ring. And then my slots, I used 3 millimeter by 6 millimeter. So it was 6 wide, unlock my aspect ratio, and 3 high. And put that on top dead center of that one. Oh, wrong way, Conway. Up there. And actually, I didn't want to do top dead center. I wanted to align it. So if I've got that up there, I'm going to turn off my toolpath so I don't see it for right now. And now with that selected, hold my shift button and select that one and say Alt-Shift-V. Alt-Shift-V for vertical. And that'll bring that right to the outside of that. And if you look, you've got a gap there. So that's not going to weld up very well. So then what I do is I make sure I've got my movement, my control shift. We're going to do it at 0.002 and say, okay. Now select just that one, hold my control button and my down arrow button and bring it down until that's inside my circle. Once that's inside my circle, hold my shift button and select the circle, circular array, and I only need, you can do as many as you want. I went with 4 because I wanted to have as few places I have to insert, and also I wanted as few holes in the side of my silo as possible. So I went with 4. I group my results and select my results are turned on. So that will select my array when I'm done. So now all I have to do is hold my shift button, select that outermost circle, and weld them. And there we go. There's a support ring. But to make this easier to assemble, especially because you're rolling this up. If you've watched if you watch the assembly video, I put one in, and then I'd start rolling it up like, rolling a cigarette, you rolling that up on its sides. Well, because I'm rolling that flat piece up and hitting that corner, and to make it go in as easy as possible, I put a small radius on there so it can slide over that and not have a hard corner. And what I should have done, if I hit undo, take it back to that, just go in here, and now with the singular, hit my radius tool. That was 3 millimeters tall. And so I went with, I think, about a 2 millimeter radius. Nope, didn't do 2. That's too big. I think it was maybe 1 1/4. Yeah. Now with that, hold my shift key. Now do the circular array, 4 of them, grouped and select. Okay. Hold my shift button, select the outer one. And now I want to show you another. If you have problems, you're like, wait a minute, because I get people all the time who's like, I did what you did, but it didn't work. It didn't work. I did everything you did, and it didn't work. But you didn't do what I did, or else it would have worked if it worked for me. If it worked for me, it's going to work for you. And that's why I love those comments. Like, well, I did that, but it didn't work. Well, then you missed a step. And I want to show you what you can miss when you're trying to do this that makes it not work. So here, I've got my circular array that I just generated, and I hold my shift button and I select that outermost circle. But the inner one is not selected, just the outer. And then I can weld it to that circle. And now that welds that up. Now I can grab both of those and group them. And now that's one piece. I can move it around anywhere I want by grabbing just one piece. I ain't got to worry about it. Everything's together. But what can happen if you're not paying attention to what you've done and when you've done it? There we've got a group array. We've got a single circle and another single circle. Well, if you, in your process of creation, like I did, I grouped those early on and I said, well, no, I'm not going to do that yet. Well, if I had left those grouped, and those now, if I grab this and hold my shift button and select that, then, well, that still worked. But if that was if those tabs were on the inside, and this, I just want to show you where this can be a problem. People say, well, it didn't work for me. Well, you did it backward. If those tabs, I'm just going to create a new one instead of, and if it was in here like that, and these were not grouped, if I select that and select this and weld it, where'd it go? Welding did not give me the piece that I wanted. Undo. But if I've got these two grouped, hold my shift button and select that and weld it, then that creates that. So whenever you don't get the result that you are looking for, it might be a grouping issue. You've got either things that are grouped that you shouldn't have grouped if you're trying to get a certain outcome, or you need to group things that aren't grouped. So, and I've got 1 or 2 comments that I need to address now from folks they're like, yeah, I tried that. It don't work. And well, it's not because it don't work on your computer. It's because there's a picnic error. Problem in what is it? Problem in chair, not in computer. Yeah, picnic. Problem in chair, not in computer. All right. Now, before I go too much further, just look and see if there's anybody that's got any questions. Well, Nancy, I don't have a lot, but I do appreciate all you. Well, Nancy, I appreciate you. I appreciate everything. Kent, thank you very, very much. And guys, I am grateful. Very grateful All right. Okay, not a question mark, but he's making a statement, by golly. Chris says, when working with circular shapes, 22.5 degrees, 45.9, or any combination of those numbers are the magic numbers to work with, as they are equally divisible by 360 degrees. Okay. All right. So it wasn't, so where I was moving it by 20 degrees, Chris is saying, hey, you should have done 22.5 degrees. Y'all got that? Because he wanted to make sure that I saw that, because I told him, say, put question marks out in front of your question, but Chris put exclamation points. Say, hey, look, my golly. So when you're creating that circular array, I did made that pair, and then I did a group of 40, and that would have been but anyway, his magic numbers are 22.5 and 44.9, 45.9. Yeah, Jeep, picnic area, picnic error, problem in chair, not in computer. All right. Questions done. All right, got more asterisk in there. So now, so I showed you how I did those rings. Those were not too terrible, but these, the top and the bottom ones, those were a little bit more challenging. Let's see here. Okay. And I'm guessing you guys are following these comments too. And I'll be honest with you right now, because I don't understand a lot of this. I see it and I can make it work and I can figure it out. I don't fully follow what you guys are talking about right now. But if y'all know math and you know your algebra and all that, I get that's divisible, makes the equal divisibility of 360 and all the I don't know, did I say 45.99? I don't know where that's coming from, but okay. 22.5 or 45. Okay. Now I'm with you. Sorry, guys. Before I jump back over, there are times when I edit nodes on one thing, then add a shape to that, then try to weld it. It will not be well. And that, I'll tell you why. No matter which way I select it, can you help? Yeah. The reason that it won't weld after you've been doing node editing, and I know this because I have the same problem. Most likely, the reason you can't weld a new shape to something you've node edited is after you've node edited it, you have left it as an open shape. And an open shape, while it looks like it's an open shape, technically an open shape is just a line. And you can't weld anything to a line. So it has to be a closed shape to weld objects to it. So if you've done node editing to remove stuff or change stuff, go back and before you try to weld anything to that, select that whole piece that you just node edited and go into the edit field, and or you can right click and see if you can close shape. If it gives you the option to close shape, then it was open. Or if you just go up to tools and look, and you'll see close shape down there, close shape. But if you've node edited it's now, even though it still looks like it's a circle or a star or a parallelogram or a flying fish with a snake in its mouth, whatever, if you node edited it and you did not close it, you can't weld it. Squirrel. All right, back to yeah, I use an auto join a lot too. Chris says when he does his node editing, he's got in the habit of doing auto join after being caught out on this so many times. I do Alt J. Just select that whole thing and Alt J. That'll close it up too a lot of times too. Yeah. Yeah, we're at an hour and 15, and I ain't even scratched the surface of what I was going to look at. We're going to jump back over here to the Lightburn. All right, so back to this. Get my base circle to begin with again. It was 295 divided by pi, and I did not have my aspect ratio locked. There we go. And put me some asterisk down there. All right. So there is my innermost circle. Or that I should say that is the outer diameter. That's the outer diameter, if I did that right. And we'll just double check it. Aspect ratio. And it was 295 divided by pi. Yep. All right, so that's the outermost diameter. And I'm going to put that on a toolpath and turn my toolpath back on so I can see it. And I want to bring that one over here. And I can't center it on that one, but I can't even do it on this one because this additional shape down here is throwing it off my ability to center it. But there we go. That snapped into center there. And if we look, make sure I got that right. Is that 295? Yep, 295. I may have had to go back and because like I said, I designed this, redesigned it, designed it again, redesigned it. But in my mind, the way that this piece needed to be put together is if that is the outer diameter of that column and it's 3 millimeters thick, then those pieces should have gone on the inside, right? That's the outer diameter. And it's yes. Then I would have thought that those pieces, but here it looks like that is centered up. And I've assembled this a few times. So, and I slept once or twice since doing this. But that's what it's looking like. There's my outer diameter, and it's centered up in those squares instead of inside of it. All right. Well, how did I get that shape? Three millimeter. I'm on. I have a 3 millimeter circle or square rather, and I'm gonna put it up here. Where'd you go? Oh, wrong way. All right. Now, with that like that, holding my shift button and selecting that circle, come over here to circular array again. And now I'm going to change my step. I'm decreasing my step to bring those to where they overlap each other. And then I'll increase my quantity and get it the step to where I want it to be, to where I get the size that I want it to be. And now I'm starting to get a gap, so that don't work. So we'll decrease the step again and just keep, nope, increase that step. There we go. And then group and select. So that right there, and I'll hold my shift button and bring that back to the center. I didn't want it to go that way. Undo. I'm going to move these out of the way now. Move them up here. I'll move them over here even more. There we go. All right, so now I've got the basic shape, but they're all a bunch of individual pieces. So I'm going to ungroup them and just weld them together. And you can only weld 2 objects at a time. And there is the shape that I needed. And now I needed to create 4 of them, and we're going to put our step back, and we're going to do 4. Come on now. Nope, 3 copies. Well, because I'm not at top dead center, I'm having to put it where I want it. And okay. And that's how I was able to create the slots and position them where I wanted in here. And then it was just a matter of creating the necessary offsets. Delete the original, and there we go. Then it was just a matter of deciding where I wanted to put the grain elevator, the shed, and the ladder, and just create the rectangles for those and line them up with the, come on, puppy. Alt Shift V. And again, when you're welding a rectangle to a circle, if that's the size you want it to be, well, there's a gap there. Well, you now, instead of moving that in, because I wanted that to stick out that far, just drag that in until it overlaps. That way you still got the same distance out here. And then weld that to that. And then give it some radius on these outer corners. So it just looks nice. And so on and so forth. And that's how I did the tabs out here for those pieces. And then on the chute, the grain elevator, that was a simple living hinge up here. And then because of the way that the living hinge creates those vertical lines, when I did this one, you notice I did not have the marks on the grain elevator. I didn't engrave any lines on it. And I said, that stands out like a sore thumb. I did not like the way that looked. So and I didn't like the way I had those oriented either. I changed, the original was shed grain elevator, and then the ladder. So it's like, okay, we see the shed. Well, you only see the grain elevator. And if you see that way, then we'll only see the side. I didn't like that. So I had to rearrange that, both of those, so that I could put my shed out front, see the grain elevator, and then the ladder, all of them there. But on the grain elevator, I opted to engrave vertical lines on the sides. So now it just is more aesthetically pleasing to me. It blends in. It looks like it's made out of the same corrugated steel, if you will, or the metal, aluminum, whatever they made it out of. I left the shed natural, so it looks like it's an old wood shed, but lots of detail in the engraving. You know, the door frame with the 45s, same thing with the window frames and the mitered edges, and the lap siding engraved into the side of it. And then I forget who it was. Somebody commented about how much they really liked the way this paint was done, and and it shows up better in the photographs. There are parts of this that looks like it's got some age or wouldn't really be rust, but tarnish. And I painted this in 2 steps. I painted it with a high silver metallic spray paint. And then after painting it with the silver, and I did it with 1 light coat. I did not do a heavy coat. And then after putting the bright silver metallic paint on it, I have some, the color is called brown leather. And it's a spray paint. But I held it probably 3-4 feet away from the surface and just let it mist and rain down on top of that. And then the combination of that brown leather speckle and then the burning of the laser, and I didn't clean that up, it created that tarnished look around the edges, and it really does look like it's aged. It turned out really nice. I like that final outcome a lot. Let's see. Is there any questions? Did I lose anybody in that question? There's a question. There are times when I did that. Okay. Now I've got called up again. Any more questions? Question. Should you have put seam on outer silo under elevator? Should you put seam on? Don't know what you're talking about. Soak and raise. Should you have put seam? Oh. Now I know what you're talking about. And that's one of the things that changed. The seam is there in the very, very back. And what I did put behind the grain elevator is 1 row of the notches. So, because my plan was when this is on display, the seam is in the back and you're not going to see it no way. And I'd rather have some of those notches hidden and the seam be on the very back that nobody's going to see anyway. And then I've got some of the notches hidden behind the ladder. So that's why I did that. I had 2 things I could use to hide. I could use the grain elevator and the ladder to hide some of the notches and put the seam in the back. But that's just the way I felt when I did the layout. Okay. I think I've answered all the questions that were either in YouTube and or in the emails. If you got any questions that I haven't addressed about this, now's the time to post them. Any other questions about anything else? We're at an hour and a half. We're 90 minutes in. I did put a package together. A lot of you've already found it. A lot of you've already figured me out on my posting and dropping files. So the patrons they see this, and I didn't even post it in Patreon this time because I just been so backed up. I put together a package on hobowithwood.com. No, where is you at? I thought I had. Oh yeah, I did. Here. I put together a farm package. It's got the barn, the windmill, the silo, and the truck, and the barn quilt. All of those digital files, and I put a regular price of $29.95, and right now I've got them on sale until midnight tonight at $14.99. So if you haven't bought any of these, or you've only got one or two of them, and you want to get the whole thing right now, you can get everything for $14.99. And then I may change that to $24.99 after, maybe. I don't know. I've been looking at other prices of people's stuff out there, and my prices are a little bit high, but my prices are guaranteed to work with Lightburn without problem, without miscellaneous open shapes and duplicate layers on top of layers. I just feel like my product's a little bit better quality than the average piece that's out there. And if you're a gold patron, you get them all for free anyway. So just wanted to make, and I also have, if you don't need or don't want that entire thing, I did put just the grain silo up there by itself, and it's $2.49, which, if you just watched the last 90 minutes and seen all the math and headache and struggles that I went through, you think that's worth $2.49? I think it's worth a whole lot more than that. But I've got to get my mind wrapped around, okay, well, maybe 100 of you will buy it for $2.49, where, only 30 of you would buy it at, whatever. So still figuring it out. Yeah, no, I know that it's there, but for folks who aren't familiar with me yet, who happen to be somebody maybe sent them to the site and they look, oh my God, he's got $10 for that windmill. Yeah, well, I haven't seen anybody else's windmill that looks like that. I've not seen anybody's windmill that has integrated fan blades, individual fan blades that wrap and have that angle to them. And actually, and I could have made the windmill one step better, where it wouldn't take a whole lot if I made that where it actually pivot. And I did this for my truck file. So a lot of you guys who bought this way back when and it had the skinny truck on it, when I revised this truck file and made it so that it has the dimensions to fit with the barn there, so that it's and it's at the right scale. Let's see here. I made it smaller and wider so it actually works with that. Well, when I made those adjustments to that file, I emailed every single person who purchased the original file and a copy of the new updated files that had both versions. They had the skinny version and the new revised wider file. So I made this. It wouldn't take much to make this pivot, like the actual windmill would pivot in the wind. That's what this is for. In fact, when I was photographing this for the website, had it out on the front porch and it was blowing. The wind was blowing pretty good. And with the wind blowing, I got a pinwheel. If I can get my wind. I haven't seen anybody else's that does that. But because this wouldn't move and there was a cross breeze going on, it blew over my windmill and it broke a few of my struts. So I may go back and make that a pivot point. Like I said, it won't be hard to do. So if you've bought this file already and I update this, I'm going to email you the new version that will still have this and the updated version. That might be one thing I do just to improve that before I'm completely done with it. But no, the quality of my files and the creativity of my files, the detail of my stuff, there's not many out there that compare. There's some good ones. There are some really good ones. In fact, the one of the files I seen for the silo that had the external supports on it, he had a silo and a barn, and his barn was really nice. And where I went with, and I hadn't seen his barn yet until I already done mine, but I went with the vertical siding, engraved lines on my barn. So they had the vertical lines, and that's kind of like the typical cheap siding you see out at the Home Depot or Lowe's. His barn file was done with a horizontal siding, and it wasn't done in just solid planks. He had individual pieces. It was really a good looking file. So there are some really creative folks out there doing some nice stuff. I don't know how Lightburn friendly his files are. And that's where I think I've got a leg up on just about anybody who's working with Lightburn and wants to create some good stuff without a whole lot of headache. And plus, I'm going to try my best to teach you how to do it yourself. Let's see here. Chuck, how did you calculate the placement of the slots in silo for the tabs of the support rings so it wrapped around properly? Okay, good question. Switch to that and switch to that and switch back. All right. So this was the first thing I had to configure. The tabs had to be set up. I'm on. If I got okay, I got it all grouped. I'm going to ungroup that. I'm going to Control D, duplicate it, and bring that over here so I don't mess up my original. So initially, I actually started out with a rectangle. If I go in here to node editing, I'm going to delete all those. Not that. I hit the delete. See, I do it all the time. I know better than to hit the delete button. If you select all your nodes and then hit the letter D for dummy, it will delete them. But if you hit the delete button, it'll delete everything. Shame on me. In fact, I don't need that right now. And I don't need that one right now. And so imagine all those down there are gone too. I started out with just a rectangle that was 295 millimeters wide because that was the thickness of my, or the width of my material. And then the height of how tall I wanted the column of the silo to be. Now I had to figure out the tabs. And I knew I wanted 4 tabs. So 295 divided by 4, that makes them 73.75 if I had 4 tabs. But I don't need 4, I want 4 tabs, but if I've got 4 tabs, then that means I've got to have 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. And I split my tabs up so that, and this is something I did this intentionally because I used, I can't even find it on this. Okay, here. On this one, I had the seam behind the ladder. But the seam is behind the ladder, and it comes up here. The seam is part of that grouping so that when those went into a slot, it's helped pulling it to a final defined dimension. Otherwise, if the seam's over here on the side somewhere, then there's nothing holding that seam or pulling that seam together. So I thought about that when I laid out these tabs as well. So that gave me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tabs, not of the equal size, with 4 spaces. So actually, where is my, there we go. So that's 33.27. $295 divided by 5. Not 5 by 9, stupid. Come on. 295 divided by 9. There we go. So I needed 5 equal. 5. I did it again. I needed 9 equal spaces. 4 of them would be tabs. 5 of them would be slots, right? So if I needed 32.777777 to equal the width of one of those, draw a rectangle tool. 32.777 and 3 millimeters. And then what I did, if you go in there tight, you see I get the little, I don't know if, I hope it shows up for you guys, but if you go to the center, your cursor will change to where you get a little circle right there. You can grab that circle once your cursor changes, and I'll snap that to the corner of my material. And now I can do an array with that 32.777, not column, not rows, columns. Why didn't that go to 0? Oh, well, we'll just cancel you. Columns. 32.7777. And I'm not getting the result that I thought I was going to get. Oh, okay. Got to think. All right. So that's the grouping. So I'm going, but now I'm going to take and move that. Why did it rotate on me? Didn't want to rotate it. Grab that, find that middle. There it is. And now snap that to there. There we go. Is that right? Yeah. So now with that there, that's grouped. Now I first select my rectangle, hold my shift button and select that array and subtract. There we go. Did that give me? Nope. That was back assward. I might have had it right to begin with. But it's getting late and my brain is cooked. But what I did is I found the right spacing, which was 32.77. And then half of that, that's, go back there. Ungroup that. And actually, you can use this as a calculator, 32.77. Unlock your aspect ratio and divide that by half. And that's the right size for that piece. Snap it right there. There we go. Now I'm figuring it out. And now I can duplicate that. Control D, duplicate it. Bring that over here. Let's get rid of these. Move this one down here. And then grab this one. And I'm going to nest it right up against it. Snap it right in place. Then come up here to my controls and set my move arrow to 32.77 and say OK. And now arrow over one time. And now I can use my array and do that. And nope, still didn't get it right. Told you, math hurts. And y'all, and I forget who it was that said they used, I think it was Carl or who was it said they used all of their 4-letter words and then some with the assembly. I did it designing this thing. But once you have the right size using that array, then I can weld those up. And then that's how I got the tabs placed and knew the exact placement of where those are going to be, knew the spacing that they needed to be, and then use that distance to position those slots. And I'm doing that with 1, 2, 3. I did the math wrong because I still tried to do it. I should have done it instead of dividing by 9. I should have divided by 7. See? Golly. So 295 divided by 7 would have been the actual length. Cancel. Switch. 295 divided by 7. There we go. Delete that. I can position that. I put it right where it needs to be. I'm going to change my anchor point to the bottom left and now come up here. And in fact, before I do that, I'm going to Control D, duplicate that. And that didn't work. Delete. I was in the wrong field. Control D, duplicate it, move it up. Now with my anchor point in the bottom left, divide that by 2. There we go. And now I know that this docks up there, and it is 42.143. 42.143. Arrow over one time. Get rid of that. Duplicate that. Control D, duplicate it, and then align it to the right. And now array. I still didn't come out right. Did I not get my space? Well, you know what? I know what it is, though. I think I do. All right. We'll just say we're not going to group them. We'll say OK. Oops. Select all of that. Oh, so 1, 2, 3, that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 295 divided by 8. I know some of y'all getting bored and you're tuning out on me because I see my numbers dropping, and I hate when I do that. Oh, yeah, there we go. Dave's got a question I didn't address. I said I would. Let me go back up here. All right. Looking for questions that I've. All right. I got that one. All right, Dave, I will answer your question on that because that's an easy one. Looking for question marks. Brad, no, not always. It depends on what I'm doing. With the painted surfaces, I like when I'm doing pre-painting, instead of sending 100% of power at a slow speed. If I do 100% power at a faster speed, I get less scorching of the paint. So that might be what you're seeing there. All right. Yeah, I was doing the wrong. I didn't get the right original dimensions because I was dividing by the wrong number. So if I start that again, and this was the struggles that you're seeing some of the real time stuff here. 295 divided by 8. And there's could be a much easier way to go about this, but this is how I got there eventually. Anchor point there, divide it in half. It's 36.875. 36.8875. Array 36.875. Control D, duplicate, and then align it to the right. And there we go. Now group all those together and weld that together. And that's how I got there. Okay. Now, how did I get the roof line for the shed? Because that was the question I was supposed to do, and I didn't do it. So what they're referring to is here. How did I get that? That is so difficult. So difficult. Once I had my rectangular shape for my roof line, and I built that design, just said that's what it's going to be based on the size of my shed. Once I had that, put it in a cut path and go ahead and put the shingle. Oh, no. Go back to cut path, deselect, rectangle. Come on. And I'm going to show this just because some folks might not be aware of it. But to create my shingles, I used the grid array. I did 0 spacing columns. I filled up those columns past, and then I did rows. Those are going in the wrong direction. Take off my spacing and reverse the direction and shift by half. Now, that created a void right here. There's no shingle there, no engraving, but I'm way past the outer perimeter here, so that's fine. And that's why I did that. So now I take my shingles on up and past it, and I've got a little partial piece there. Don't like that, so I can say okay. And then what I did was I just changed. I don't want to change my width because the width of it was based on the width of my shed, but I can change the depth of it a little bit. And now that works better. And I didn't select all of that when I designed it, but now I can select it all, hold control and click right click or left click to deselect that, group it all together. Now hold shift and select it again and tell it to center it. And actually I want it aligned to the bottom. I should have done align vertical center. So we'll undo and tell it to go center. There we go. Now with that selected, I'll select, actually I'll need to duplicate my outer piece because once I cut, it'll go away. So I have to Control D, duplicate it. So there's 2 of those there now. select my array first, then hold shift and select one of those duplicates and alt shift C for cut. And that'll leave the selected perimeter and just hit the delete button. And now I've got my shingles nice and centered and they look good on there. Now I can group all of that together. And actually, I think there's going to be a problem here in a second, but we'll go there. Draw out a perfect circle. That circle needed to be 295 divided by pi, 3.14. And I did not have the aspect ratio locked, 93.949. Didn't have it right again, 93.949. There we go. So there was my circle. That's how I got my roof line. I knew based on the size of the roof, I needed that roof to, where was it? There it is. Yeah, it came based on the overlap. I had the side wall of the shed was about like so, and of course the full length out. So there's a little bit of an overhang on the shed roof. So the wall, the external wall, which would go all the way down like that. Then I just moved that down until I had the right contact. And then I just said, okay, A subtract B. And because, and I'm going to get rid of that exterior wall so it's not confusing anybody. Remember earlier I said you can't, the lines are not shapes, so they act funny. So I'm not able to use the Boolean tools because those are lines, not shapes. So if I select that piece and the circle, I can use cut shapes, but I can't use any of my Boolean tools over here. So if you select what you want to keep and then hold shift and select the circle, and alt shift C is also cut, but you see what's flashing the answer on the piece you want to keep because the order I selected it. So if I selected the circle first and then select that, alt shift C, nope, that won't do anything. And so you have to go back, select that piece you want to keep, select your circle, alt shift C for cut, but don't delete what's flashing. Select the other piece and delete. And if you, now you've got this open line here, and that's where I said your problem comes in, where you can't have lines and cutting and Booleans. We needed to use Boolean on the outermost perimeter, but you couldn't use a Boolean because of the lines. So when you tried to do cut shapes, you got the shape you wanted, but now you don't have a usable piece. So you have to go back and then do a duplication of this circle. We're going to ungroup all of this, and we're going to say A, we've got just the perimeter, hold shift and select one of those circles and subtract it. Now, when we did that, I'm going to put that back on the cut path and turn off the black path or the black layer. So there, it gave me a closed shape of the perfect piece that I needed. Turn that back on, but now my shingles don't match, and that's why I duplicated this. You couldn't use Boolean to get the results you wanted, but now you use that array, select it, and select that circle, and now use Alt-Shift-C, and then select those and delete, and that got rid of them and gives you your final finished piece for your roof. There's a lot that goes into, and especially when your brain works like mine does, 2 steps forward and 1 step back, 2 steps forward and 1 step back. People use credit cards all the time. I don't know why you can't use. If you're talking about my website, hobowithwood.com. There you go. Hobowithwood.com is my website, and people use their credit cards and PayPal and all that all day long, Mike. So I don't know why you wouldn't be able to use a credit card. In fact, let me go. You goes, now you got me concerned because this is how I make my money. This is how I feed myself. So squirrel, go look and see over here. Auto. So yeah, I've got the option to buy with my Google Pay, PayPal, or Venmo. And right now we'll just add to cart. View cart. And MasterCard and Visa, if that's what you're talking about. That's Google Pay. I clicked on GPay, and here's where you'd put in your Visa information and all your billing information. That's for Google Pay. PayPal, if you have a PayPal account, it'll go in and actually look for your PayPal account and link you up. But click on Buy with Google Pay, and there's where you can put in your credit card information. And depending on if you have, I use Google Pay with my Android a lot. So I've actually got my Google Wallet and got my credit cards in my Google Pay account. So when I click on Google Pay, a lot of times I'm not signed in on this website, or else it just showed you all my credit card information. But it works. So click on Google Pay and you can put in your credit card information there. Yeah, after cut shape, I would just node edit a duplicate of the circle. You absolutely can. There's how many times do I say? I haven't said it tonight. There's one way to do it right, and that's my way. And then there's 100. There's 100 ways to do this. And I don't always do it the easiest way or the shortest way. Just how my brain works to get there. Yes, there's 100 ways you can figure it out. Yep. And Valerie says, yep, she used Google Pay and it worked. So, yeah. Okay. Yep. 2 hours in, and Sharon's signing out of here. I'm signing out of here too. Thank you, Sharon, for hanging out with us. Before I jump, is there anybody, any last questions? Going once. And are all of you guys going to be here next week? 1 week from today, next Saturday, somebody's going to get a free Rolly laser. A free Rolly laser. Wow. I've reached out to Lightburn and I've asked them, I haven't got a response in any way. I've not even been acknowledged yet, but I've asked them if they would be willing to donate a year's subscription to Lightburn to go along with the Rolly laser in case the winner, and there's a good chance the person might not even need it. But if they don't need it, they could instead donate a year's renewal. You've already got Lightburn, but you need to update. I'm waiting to hear back if Lightburn would do that. That way somebody gets a complete package. They get the best diode laser on the market, and they get the best laser engraving software. If you guys are using Adobe Illustrator or whatever else, and Vectric and different things to create stuff, and you're not done Lightburn, here you get a free laser and the free software to figure out and work and do what I've been doing and what I've been teaching. But I haven't heard back from them yet. I plan to also do some small giveaways. I'll probably what do you guys think about possibly a flask or two? Not giving away any moonshine, but maybe a flask or two. I I don't know, if anybody wanted a t-shirt, maybe we'd do a t-shirt. But I try to have some other stuff going on. But next week is going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Yep. Going to be a good day. Going to be a good day. And that's going to be at 3 p.m. Eastern time. 3 p.m. Eastern time. Unfortunately for Chris, that's 3 a.m. But he's been in some of those live streams. So for you folks, you are down in New Zealand and Australia and all, it's going to be an early morning for you guys if you want to be in on the drawing. But that also, I've got a lot of guys in the European market who are not in the stream tonight because it's, 4 o'clock in the morning for them right now, something like that. So, do you know if Rolly is considering an infrared module? I don't, I'm sure Dimitri's already gone from here by now. I think I've heard some rumblings about that, but I don't know. Flask and t-shirts would be fantastic. And I'm guessing that's supposed to mean that's your nap time. Yeah, well, you don't want to sleep through this, brother. Not unless you've just got your rolling and you don't need another or want another. All right, guys. 2 hours in, 2 hours out. Next week, 3 p.m. Eastern time. Set your alarms. Put a bell around your cat. Put you some mouse traps in different places so that you go to hit a snooze button, it'll wake you up instead of back. You don't want to miss next week's live stream. I talked to Leo about Leo actually being here next week. So your question about the infrared module, hopefully Leo will be here for the giveaway. Depends. Actually, no, he's not going to be able to be here for the giveaway because he's also 12 hours. If he's in China, it'll be 3 a.m. for him. And he won't be awake for that. But if he's in Canada or here in the U.S., maybe. Don't know where he's at. We'll see. Yes, Valerie, you have to be on to win. And I don't know. I don't have I don't have a time. I know the live stream's going to start at 3, and we'll have some fun, recap some things, and reminisce about the last 2 years and the hijinks that have transpired and the highs, the lows. Give away a few things here and there, and then at some point give away the Rolly. But it's just it'll be a natural flow of things. So I can't give you a time. And plus, too, if I told everybody, be sure you're online at 4:35, nobody bothers to log in, and they tune in at 4:35, see if they won, and they're out at 4:34 or 4:38. Well, that don't help me or the channel or the statistics. I'm trying to accommodate as many folks as I can, but if your schedule is conflicting, I can't accommodate everybody. But yes, Valerie, you do have to be in the stream to win. I will be doing a drawing like I have done in the past, where I'll give you a keyword, and you'll type in that keyword, and we'll do a random drawing, and somebody will get the keyword, and you put it in if you want a flask. You might not want a flask, so you don't enter that one. Then I'll do a drawing for t-shirts or for what, I don't know. But then when it's time to give away the Rolly, put in this keyword, and we'll give away the Rolly, and you'll have to respond that yes, you're here and you won and you're happy as a pig in slop and you can't stand it. You just pulling your hair out. You're so happy. And then you'll email me your information. I will then forward that to Rolly, and they will be sending you a laser. But yes, You do have to be in the stream to win. I wished that I could put other requirements in there, like you have to be a subscriber to win. Yeah, I but can't do that. And you have to be careful on giveaways about different types of requirements. And so, okay, for every dollar it donates, you get an entry. Well, that's a raffle, and that's not those are not always legal. So yeah, you just got to be present to win. And yeah, Chris, he's in the same time zone as you. Chris says he wants a photo from the first. Well, we'll probably do some flashbacks. I said you'd be happy as a pig in slop, and Valerie says, "Well, if I won, I would be that happy, and just call me Porky." Okay, guys, you guys have a great rest of your weekend, and I hope you have an uneventful next week. I've got a lot to get ready for, prepare for, the new laser coming in, and getting ready for the anniversary stream. And I'll see you in a week, and somebody is going to win a laser. One of the laser. We're not going to sing anything. We're going to end this